I think when we use the word consent, and as a person whose English is my second language, sometimes there are words where there is a specific meaning, maybe because it's a translation or because it brings up a certain emotional reaction. I think consent usually goes along with sexual consent. And I think we often forget that we actually consent every time we download an application on our phone, every time we go to the bank and we sign 6 pages of small print that we don't read. Those are all situations of consent. And it's effectively giving to agree in an opinion or a sentiment. We're of the same mind. We concur. Those are all areas of definitions of consent. And so it's really voluntarily giving permission to whatever act is in front of us. I agree for the bank to be able to pull my credit score, right? To be able to get a credit card. That's a form of consent. Now, when we look at consent as it relates to engaging in sexual activity, that's where I look to when I am working with kiddos with complex profiles or extensive support needs, because consent's supposed to be, if we're talking about sexual activity, freely given. It has to be an enthusiastic yes. It has to be ongoing. It has to be continuously discussed, and it can be taken away at any time, right? So if I am working with a student with extensive support needs, I have to consistently ask whether or not I can continue touching them or move their mobility aids, or if I can provide them with personal care, right? Because our more complex kiddos rely on adults to oftentimes to the basic self-care needs, right? Such as toileting or getting dressed. And if I, as an adult, providing this service or providing this support, asked once, and I told them I'm going to be, taking you to the toilet and support you in toileting, and then I don't ever ask again, I'm effectively trespassing on their bodies and their beings and their autonomy. So I think when I'm looking at consent, it is consistent opportunities for communication between two people to agree in one act of whatever that is. So for example, when I teach about consent for babies, I talk about diaper change and bathing. And so if I am teaching my child, and I'm looking at it as an instructional opportunity for concept development, if I have a child and I'm giving them a bath, then I can narrate, I am touching your arm. These are your fingers. I'm washing your belly. I am wiping down whatever body part that I may happen to be on. Or if I'm doing a diaper change, I'm also providing words and concepts, the wet, cold, wet wipe, or maybe I am fortunate enough to have a wipe warmer, which was, I'm too old for that, but a lot of parents now have that. So I can still explain that it's warm and wet, and we are, cleaning off the poop, and to make sure that you don't break out and you're not going to get itchy. And then I'm touching your leg and I'm touching your feet and I'm putting on the clean diaper. And so if I can teach parents to narrate consistently what they are doing with the child, then the child is developing concepts, they are bonding, and the child is learning about their bodies. Because when I'm verbalizing, it's actually telling the child, people should be telling me when they are touching me. And that starts at birth. And so oftentimes we're in such a hurry because we're so busy, because we have to work, because especially happen to be a single mom or single dad, there's just no time and you just don't have the energy, but it can actually make the world of difference for our kiddos with support needs to verbalize. And so once I verbalize it, once the child is growing up, I am not forcing them to give hugs to each other or strangers at the park. Oh, look at your friends, you're 2 years old, let's hug. No, please don't. Even if it's a 2-year-old, right? You don't have to hug your friends. Nobody said that that's something we should be doing. That's, again, that goes along with that forced compliance. That's the societal expectations. And we have to be okay to be just a little bit more, not so rigid, especially when it comes to our kiddos with disabilities. So modeling starts in diapering.
This really needs to start with the caregivers and modeling consent or assent and ensuring that they are advocating for their kids in every environment that they go into. So when we go to a family function and grandma wants to force a hug, we say, no, my child doesn't need to give a hug. If they don't feel like it, then we don't need to give a hug. We don't have to accept those forced interactions and touches, even though it's a family member. So it's about being comfortable, and parents and caregivers really need to model that and speak up about it when they see it happening, and kind of set those boundaries up for their kids. So they're modeling that in every situation. It's really difficult because to do that on a daily basis is incredibly difficult. And I empathize with them, and I understand how hard that is. And I've sat at many a kitchen table and in living rooms, and I know how hard parents are working and the struggles that they're going through. But if this is something they can add to their repertoire, this is something that they can actively have in the front of their minds to be working on, it will help their child. And just the education about boundaries and consent and teaching them assertiveness and how to protect their personal space, it is worth it. I mean, I know that it's difficult. It's another thing that they need to work on. And my heart goes out to every parent that has ever needed to work on just another thing. And I know that's difficult, but this is a really important one. This is one that is going to be a little uncomfortable for some parents. Some parents, it won't be a problem, and they have no problem with advocating for their kids. Um, I think I've worked with many families that don't want to be a problem or make waves with their provider. But if parents understood how important this was, they would be asking every provider that came into their child's life if they understood assent and how they were going to ask for that and promote that. So every adult around that child or adult needs to be asking for assent or consent. And they all need to be promoting that same concept. And we're all trying to look out for that individual's best interest. And so parents need to be talking to their providers and make sure that they understand that concept. Do a little research, find out what it means, find providers that are knowledgeable and are willing to implement that into their services or in the educational setting.